Imagine the shockwaves that rippled across international corridors when India decided to expel a Canadian diplomat and strip diplomatic immunity from other envoys. This wasn't a decision made lightly. In fact, it was driven by a potent mix of emotional elements and retaliation. Let's take a step back and consider the context. The tension between Canada and India was sparked by some serious allegations from the Canadian side. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau suggested that the Indian government might have been involved in the killing of a Canadian Sikh leader. As you can imagine, this didn't sit well with India, who not only denied these allegations but also refused to cooperate with any investigation. This was an unusual move, as diplomatic immunity is generally respected among nations. However, India felt compelled to take a stand. The decision to strip diplomatic immunities from other envoys in particular was primarily for the sake of parity. Things got even more complicated when India expressed concerns about certain Canadian citizens. It seemed that some individuals were allegedly using Canadian soil to launch attacks on India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This was linked to the Sikh separatist movement, a long-standing and sensitive issue between the two nations. India even went so far as to present documentation to the Canadian government to prove criminal activity by Sikh separatists living in Canada. The relations between the two countries, once cordial, had reached a boiling point. The expulsion of the diplomat and the stripping of diplomatic immunity were clear signs that India was not taking these allegations lightly. It appeared as though the diplomatic ties between Canada and India were at their lowest ebb, strained by mutual distrust and a lack of effective communication. And just when the relations seemed to hit rock bottom, there was a glimmer of hope. Despite the turbulence, the skies of diplomacy are never devoid of silver linings. The relationship between Canada and India has been no exception to this rule. Since September, the relations between the two nations have shown a marked improvement. Ongoing constructive discussions have played a significant role in this positive shift, demonstrating the power of dialogue in resolving international disputes. A significant step in this road to recovery has been the restoration of electronic visa services for Canadians. This move not only facilitates travel between the two nations, but also serves as a symbol of the improving diplomatic ties. It's a clear indication that both countries are committed to rebuilding their relationship one step at a time. However, it's not just about mending fences. The discussions have also provided a platform for India to express its concerns about some Canadian citizens allegedly using Canadian soil to launch attacks on India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This concern, primarily tied to the Sikh separatist movement, has been a point of contention between the two nations. India has presented documentation to the Canadian government to substantiate these claims, further adding to the complexity of the situation. Yet, despite these challenges, the dialogue continues. It is a testament to the resilience of diplomacy, the willingness of nations to listen, understand, and work through their differences for the greater good. As we can see, the diplomatic dance between Canada and India is far from over. The steps towards reconciliation show promising signs, but only time will tell how the dance will end. So, what can we glean from this diplomatic tussle between Canada and India? The story began with heightened tensions, partially fueled by emotionally charged decisions and retaliatory actions, such as the expulsion of diplomats and the stripping of diplomatic immunities. The root of the conflict lay in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's allegations against the Indian government, which India fervently denied. This was further complicated by concerns over Sikh separatism and the alleged criminal activities of Sikh separatists residing in Canada. However, despite the differences and disagreements, both nations have shown a commitment to mend their ties. This commitment is demonstrated by the ongoing constructive discussions and the restoration of electronic visa services for Canadians, signaling a thaw in the icy relations. What stands out in this tale of diplomacy is the pivotal role of dialogue and constructive discussions. Even in the face of disagreements, maintaining an open line of communication can pave the way for understanding, reconciliation, and the strengthening of bilateral ties. In the grand theater of diplomacy, the stage is always set for unexpected twists and turns. But as long as dialogue continues, there's always a chance for a better act.